No.
Dang it. You were still getting your notes.
Stop working.
Okay. Today's all about graphing. Okay, so you can see there at the bottom in the back of your notes, you've got tons and tons of graphs. I apologize that the numbers are so little, but that's the only way I can get all of these graphs on one piece of paper. Just be thankful that you don't have to make your own graphs. Okay, so slope-intercept form looks something like this. Everybody okay? It is called slope-intercept form because you need two things. You need the slope and you need an intercept. Specifically, and I'd like you to write this right underneath here, this is the y-intercept. The y-intercept. Okay? Because of course there could also be an x-intercept, but I don't want that. I just want the y-intercept. So if you look at this, we have this variable m and we have this variable b. The m stands for slope. And sometimes students ask me, why did they choose m? Well, I don't know why they chose m, but for me, I think slope is a steepness of something, right? We talked about that the other day. Well, that looks like hills or a mountain. Okay, so m is slope. Then we have this b over here, and this represents the y-intercept. Again, why do they choose b? I'm not sure, but I think because we're going to use b because that's where you begin. B for begin. Correct. I would agree with that. Is everybody okay with those letters? Please understand that the y and the x are just placeholders. They will always be in there. Are we clear on that? Okay, now this is the big gun. This is like the big topic for today. Okay, little side topics for today are vertical and horizontal lines. What's a vertical line? Up and down, right? Okay, so there's my vertical line. If I have a vertical line, what axis will it never cross? It will never cross the y-axis. Folks, if it will never cross the y-axis, it cannot have a y in it, which means it will just be x equals some number. Now, I'm sure you can probably guess that horizontal is going to be the complete opposite of this, correct? What does a horizontal line look like? So this one will never cross the x-axis. Okay. If it never crosses the x-axis, it can't have an x in it. So then it must just be y equals some number. And we're going to practice doing all of this today. Again, you'll notice that slope-intercept form is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing we're going to talk about today. Everybody A-okay here? Can I go ahead and move on? Okay. All right, it says write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. I just told you what slope-intercept form is, didn't I? What is it? Every answer I write down in this section has to look like that. I just told you that y and x were going to be placeholders, correct? So I just need to fill in the m and the b. Now, folks, what does m stand for? The slope, right? And I tell you the slope right here is 1/4. Does everybody see that? What does the b stand for? And I tell you right here what the y-intercept is, correct? So I just need to take those two numbers and plug them into there, keeping the y and the x where they are. So what will that equation be? Y minus 1. Do you guys see how that's a -1? Does everybody see how I took out the m and put in the 1/4? Took out the b, put in the -1. Now I need to graph it. I told you that b stood for beginning, correct? So I am going to begin at the b, which is -1. Agreed? But isn't that a y-intercept? So I'm going to start at -1 on the y-axis. on the y-axis. That is my first point. That is my beginning point. Then I'm going to use my slope to find some more points. Well, isn't slope rise over run? So that's my rise. That's my run. So how many do I need to rise? 1. And then I'm always going to run to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does everybody see how I ran out of room going that way? I also can go down and back to get more points. And the question always comes up, how many points do I need? When we're doing these, I want you to at least have 5 points if they will fit. So I've got 3. I'm going to get my 4th and down and back to get my 5th. And I would like for you to make a relatively straight line. I'm not asking you to get out a ruler, okay, but you should do your best to make your line straight. Does anybody have any questions on what was just done there? Everybody's okay? So we can try it again, right? Here we go. I told you the slope is -3. What variable is that? And I told you the y-intercept was 6. What variable is that? So then what's the equation of this line? Is everybody following Savannah there? Do you see where that comes from? Okay, the B is for begin. So where am I going to begin? On the y-axis, which is right there. Now I'm going to use my rise over run. What's my slope? Yeah, this can be made over 1, can't it, folks? So I'm not going to rise. I'm actually going to go, because it's negative, down 3 and then which way over? Right. Down 3, right 1. There's 5 points. Got a nice line, and that's my graph. How we doing so far? Does anybody have any questions on where this is coming from? Question for you. First graph over here. How steep is that? Is that not really steep, a little bit steep, or super steep? Just a little bit, right? Because 1/4 isn't very big, is it? How about this guy over here, number 2? It's pretty steep, isn't it? Because 3 is a bigger number. All right, let's do one more of these. My slope is my what variable? The y-intercept is the... So if you plug it all in, what does it look like? 0 what? Then what? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Now I'll tell you folks, do you remember when we found those intercepts and we would like cover up where the 0 would be? Does you remember us doing that? Well, isn't this 0 times x right here? What's 0 times anything? So really, do I need that? No, so really it's just y equals -4 because that middle part's 0. Now folks, you'll notice I don't have an x in here anymore, do I? So this thing can never cross the x-axis. How can I never cross the x-axis? Staying horizontal. Where would I begin though, folks? On the y-axis, which is just down 4. And then I don't really need any points because I've got a nice line right there that I can trace. How's the pace going? Are you guys keeping up okay? All right. Questions on those 3 at all? Okay, well this time I already have the equation for you. If you take a look at the next section. Everybody see it? So if I look at this, it already says y equals 3x plus 7. Doesn't that already look like y equals mx plus b? So what's my slope? Whatever's attached to the x, right? Right? Not the x, just the number attached to it, which is 3. What's the y-intercept? 7, the b, and that's where I'm going to begin. On which axis? So I'm going to start at 7 on the y-axis. Where am I going to go? Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're doing rise over run. Up 3. And this could be over 1, couldn't it? So up 3 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. Now, folks, I just ran out of room, didn't I? So I can also go down 3 and back 1. Get yourself a nice line going through there, and there is your graph. The y-intercept is always where you start. Everybody understands that any whole number can be put over 1, correct? Okay, moving on to number 2. Again, this already looks like y equals mx plus b. So what's my slope? Everybody following Savannah there? She said -2. What's the y-intercept? Okay, looks good. Where am I going to begin? On the y-axis at -1. Then where am I going to go? Down 2 to the right 1. Perfect. Again, make yourself a nice line. We'll make it all crooked and jagged. You can make a nice line. They're not that big. And there we go. Do you guys see how this line goes down? That's because the slope's negative, right? You see how this line goes up? It's because the slope's positive, right? All right, let's do one more. There's something that's a little bit wrong with this, though. Look at number 3. What's wrong with that? It's out of order. Do you guys see how the mx part is at the end and the b part is in the middle? It's still the same. I just want you to switch it. So it'll be y equals 2/3 x minus 5. How's everybody doing with that switch? Okay, so this is my slope of what? My y-intercept of what? Okay. So where do I start this line? On the y-axis. And where do I go? Yep, to the right. And I ran out of room. I just got to get one more point on here. Whoa, that line did not go through there. Let's see if I can make it a little better here. There we go. That's a little better. How we doing? Just fine? Okay. We ready to flip it over? I would like you to find one on the back that's in the wrong order as well. 4 is in the wrong order? It is. It is totally in the wrong order. Because, folks, slope-intercept form, and you don't need to write this, slope-intercept form looks like that, doesn't it? The y is all by itself, isn't it? In number 4, the y is not even close to being by itself. How can I get that y to be alone? Leave it. Get everything else away from it. I'm going to add this 5x because that would then cancel it out, wouldn't it? Does everybody see how that worked? What's the new equation? Okay, so where will I begin? Nope. Where am I going to begin? What's my b? 0. And then where am I going to go? You guys see how this would be 5 over 1? Yes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bless you. How we doing? That's a pretty steep line, isn't it? Because the slope is 5. That's a relatively big slope. Now, do I need the plus 0 on the end? If I add 0 to something, does it change it? No. So if you told me just y equals 5x, that would be fine as well. And I think that's what Gage originally told me too. How we doing here? Good? Take a look at number 5. Is the y all by itself in number 5? But what part is it missing? The x, which means, could this ever cross the x-axis? No. How do I draw this so it never crosses the x-axis? Horizontal, where do I begin? On the y-axis. And I can then draw it horizontally. How we doing? Good? Okay, let's move over there to number 6 then. Oh boy. The y is not by itself because there is no y. So if there's no y, it can never cross the y. If it's never going to cross the y, how am I going to draw it? If I draw, it's going to be vertical. Now, folks, if I ask you where I'm going to begin, don't tell me -2 on the y because there is no y. It's going to be -2 on the x. And you told me to draw that thing vertically so that it never touches the y-axis. How we doing, folks? You sure? Sure? Okay. Questions at all yet? All right, let's look at number 7. Oh boy, y is not even close to being by itself. How am I going to leave the y where it's at but get everything else away from it? Awesome. If I subtract the 3x, can that 3x go with that 10? Can I make it 7x over there? No, because one has an x and one doesn't. Now, folks, be strategic about this because I want it to be mx plus b. So I want the x part to come first and then the b part to come second. Yep. So where am I going to begin here? 10 on the y-axis. Where am I going to go? Right 1, down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1. And that is my line. You guys see how I'm always saying I'm going to the right, correct? Unless you run out of room, and then you go back to the left. We doing okay? Oh, number 8's not too bad. The y is by itself in number 8, right? It's just backwards. So how are you going to rewrite it? There we go. And where are you going to begin? On the y-axis, and where are we going to go? Up 1 to the right 6. And I ran out of room already. Down 1 and back 6. This graph is so flat, you can only fit 3 points on it. It's so flat because 1/6 is pretty little. So that's pretty flat. Questions for me there on number 8. How we doing drawing our lines? We making them relatively straight? I don't need to make you guys get rulers, do you? I don't. No, you ran out of room. There's no way you can get 5 unless you make a bigger graph, and we don't need to waste our time doing that. All right, last one of these, number 9. Oh wait, I think I actually have 2 more. Is the y by itself here? Not even close. What do I need to get rid of first? How? And I ask you, can that -10 and the -12 go together? No, but I want to put the x portion first, folks. Now, what's left on the left-hand side? Is that you guys? Anybody? No? Okay. So, folks, how do I get this -2 off of here? Divide by -2. And, guys, everything has to be divided by -2. Everything. So I now have y equals, what is -12 over -2? I'm up here. Positive 6x. What is -10 divided by -2? So where will I begin? And go where? Oh, I don't have room to go up 6. Back 1. Down 6, back 1. And again, this thing is too steep. I can only fit 3 points on this line. Still all right? Yeah? Okay. Last one. Does this one have the y all by itself? No? Okay, how do I get the y by itself? Get rid of that 3x. What's the new equation going to be? negative y equals. Don't forget that negative symbol out front there. Okay, guys, you gotta pay attention. Staring off into space is not gonna help you here. Is this all by itself? How do I get rid of the negative 1? Divide by negative 1. Everything. And I get y equals, what is negative 3 divided by negative 1? And those are x's, right? What is 7 divided by negative 1? Where do I begin? On the y-axis, right? Up 3 to the right 1. That's 5? All right. So in all of these, I needed a y-intercept to start at, and I needed a slope to go from there, correct? What do you notice about the next two? You need to find the slope and the y-intercept from the graph that I gave you, correct? Isn't the y-intercept where you start on the y-axis? So where does this thing start on the y-axis? You guys see that point right there? Which means my b is 2. Can you find another nice point? Give me an ordered pair of a nice point. Negative 1, 2 is not a nice point. Negative 2, 3 is a nice point. You could have done 2, 2. You could have done 4, 0. All of those are nice points, correct? Start at a point on the left. It doesn't matter which point. How many do I need to rise? Really, it's negative 1, isn't it? How many do I need to run? So this m will be negative 1/2 because it's going down 1 and over 2. Now you just need to plug it into your formula. My formula is y equals mx plus b, correct? So y equals, what's my m? X plus b. And that would be the equation that would give you that line. How we doing working our way backwards there? Okay, let's do this last one. I need to know where it begins on the y-axis. Y'all see that 3 right there? Now I need a slope, which means I need another nice point. Can you find me another nice point? 3, 1 looks good. 5, negative 3 is down here. Negative 3, 5. You got to go in the right order. Okay. What is my slope? Negative 2 because we're going down. And then 3. So what's the equation? Here we go. How we doing, folks? Okay, your homework you will need graph paper for. And I'm going to pass that out to you right now. I hope you have a good weekend. Make sure your graph paper is right side up. Okay, make sure the numbers are facing the correct way when you start this. And here are your graphs, so you don't have to make yourself. Luke, is that fan on back there by you?